Right, today I'm going to show you a tutorial on the Orion Nebula. Now, this has actually been requested by the amateur astronomy group. All I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk you through the steps that I've done. I'm going to break it down in a number of stages so that you don't have to watch a full 30-minute video or whatever. It's just going to be a couple of stages, and I'm going to start off right at the beginning. I'm going to take you through right to the end, and I'm going to show you exactly the process that I do when I start processing astrophotography pictures. So this image has actually been kindly donated by Andy Waddington, and as you can see, what we've got here is you can sort of see a little bit of the core there just in the middle, and that's about it really. That's all we can see. So the first thing we need to do with any astrophotography picture is, once it's loaded up into Photoshop or any other, Lightroom or whatever you're going to use, get your histogram up, and as you can see here, we've got your RGB, and it's split. We can see the blue there, we can see the green, and we can see the red. And they're all split up, and this is quite common in a lot of astrophotography pictures, especially with modified DSLRs. It tends to be that the red, the infrared, comes through a lot more because the camera wasn't really designed to do astrophotography. So because of that modification, it's kind of overdone it a little bit. So as I said, get the histogram up, and then what we need to do is we need to open up the levels. So go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and what we want to do is we want to start squashing these two arrows together. So we don't want to bring them past the information, the data there. We want to keep them to the left and right of the data, but we want to bring them closer together. So this grey arrow here in the middle will bring that towards the data, making sure that this number doesn't go past 2, right? So we don't want to let that go anywhere past 2. So bring it down to the data, and as you can see, if you look on the histogram on the right hand side, you can see all of that data starting to spread out there, and we'll hit OK. Now, the thing with the levels that you've got to understand, it's a very slow process. It's not something that can be rushed. You've got to take your time. So when you've done that, then go back to levels, open it up again, and you can see there that the data is spread out just like it is on the histogram here. So now what we want to do is we want to start bringing those 3 colours together so that the histogram starts to look like one solid. It'll go grey basically. You'll see what I mean. So let's go from the red one first. So again, same thing. What we want to do: bring this left arrow close to the middle there, and the middle arrow, the grey arrow, further towards the data, making sure that we're not clipping it. So we don't want to send it that way. We don't want to send it too much into the data because we'll get clipping of the image, that particular band of colour. Hit OK. Wait for it to do its thing. This computer is really slow at the moment. I don't know what's going on with it. These trusty Macs. Anyway, we'll go to the green. Same thing. We'll bring the left arrow in and the middle arrow towards the data again, making sure that we don't go over that 2 number there. And as you can see on the right hand side here, all of the colours are starting to move closer together. We've still got to do the blue one, so again we're going to go back to levels, select blue, again move the left one towards the data and the middle grey arrow towards the data. So as you can see, making sure we're not moving the arrow too much towards the data so that this is going over 2. We want to keep it below 2 every time we do it. Hit OK. As you can see, they're starting to come together a lot more now. We can see the data is starting to expand. We're getting rid of all of this stuff to the left and right here, which obviously we're gonna have data on the right hand side, but on the left hand side we want to have as little as possible that's not the colour, if you know what I mean. I'm probably not explaining it very well, but just watch the tutorial and you'll probably get it. Let's get the blue one. Again, move the arrow in there. Get that closer. Okay, and you can see now the image is really starting to open up. You can see there's more detail there, but we're not done yet. We've still got to continue with this slow process until all of them colours are together. The red and the green are pretty much on top of each other now. And as you can see, at the top of the histogram, those colours are starting to match up with each other. I wouldn't worry too much about this tiny little bit of data here. That's not really significant enough to worry about if you're going into it, with the middle arrow. Probably just need to adjust the green a little bit more. And we'll move that red just a touch. And then we should be where we want to be in terms of the colours matching up. Okay, so as you can see now, they're all in line, and the grey bit at the top there, that basically means that all your colours are in sync with each other, and it's going to give you a true representation of the image that you've taken. And finally, what we want to do is go back to levels and just move that arrow again towards the data, just to get it a little bit darker. And that's about as much as we need to go for now. So, close down the histogram. Now, as you can see on this image, there's a particularly bad gradient here, which goes from light to dark over the image, and it's a particularly troublesome thing to try and work with, especially when you're working with nebulosity such as the Orion Nebula. I don't know whether you can see here, but there's some dust here. There's dust planes that we really want to try and bring out. Now, the easy option is gradient exterminator, which is fine if you're doing galaxies or star clusters or things like that, but when it comes to dust, the gradient exterminator really destroys that that, you know, part of the photograph, if you like, because essentially it would probably class the dust as a gradient, if you like. So what we need to do is a different process. Now, once we've got to this stage, you want to go to Image, Duplicate. Don't worry about the name that it comes up with there. As you can see, we've got two of the same images now. So we've got one there, that's our main image that we're working on, and this is the duplicate image. So we'll just get that a little bit bigger. Now, what you want to do, first things first, is to get rid of any really bright spots on the image. So things like the core there, and to be honest, most of the Orion Nebula center we need to get rid of, really. So if you go over to the left here to the clone stamp tool, now I'm working on a Mac, so I don't know what it is for XP or Windows 7 or anything like that, but on a Mac you hold down the Alt key and just select an area that's you know, darker, and as you can see there, it's you know, blotting out that part of the image. Again, keep going with the clone stamp tool. Keep selecting the areas that you need. So maybe another area, another bit there. That will paint over it. We just want to do a rough cover up here. It's nothing too crazy. Same with these stars, get rid of them. Now I know what you're thinking, oh my god, what a mess. But that's the whole point. So, once we've got rid of all of those bright spots, go to your filter tab, go to blur, Gaussian blur, and I've got it set to 250 of radius, which basically it just completely blurs everything. It just leaves us with the gradient. So hit OK. Wait for it to do its thing. Sorry about this, guys. Uber slow computer, and that's what you get for having a Mac for 5 years that you've not really looked after. Anyway. And we're done. Okay. So as you can see, that's a really washed out image. There's no detail there whatsoever. All we've got is, you know, we can still see the gradient here, and it sort of fades down here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to our curves. We're just going to darken the image a little bit. I'll tell you why in a minute. For the time being, it's just, there we go. That's about right there. Yeah. Okay. Now, if we move back to our original image, go to Image, Apply Image. Now, just make sure that your source is the copy that we did, not the original image. So at the top here, that's your source. That's your original image there with the TIFF next to it, and that's our Orion and the Sword stat copy. That's from the other one, and as you can see there already, it's changed it. Make sure that your settings, you've got blending mode to subtract. Your opacity is 100, your offset's 50, and I mean those settings I think are pretty standard. So you know, you won't really need to change those. But as you can see, if you just look here, and if we click preview, you can see that the gradient is pretty much gone. I mean, we're going to crop this image anyway, but you know, the overall inconsistency of the image is now much more flatter. So once that's done, and as I say, the reason why I darkened it is because the image in the middle, I wanted to keep that the same sort of level as the other side. So that's why we darken it a little bit. I'm probably not explaining it very well, but anyway, if you just stick with these settings, you'll pretty much get a similar sort of thing. Obviously, you know, play with whatever you need to play with, but really, the opacity, keep that at 100%. Your offset 50, you could probably afford to change that a little bit. Just have a go, you know, but it all depends on the image itself, you know. So once we're ready to finalize that, we'll hit OK. Now we can get rid of the copy there. Save. Oh hello, we've got some, what's that there? Oh dear. Ah, there we go. Right, so now obviously since we've done that gradient removal, the colours are a little bit out, but what we'll do is we'll bring up the histogram again, and again we'll go back to our levels and we'll try and get that image back to how it was. So the same thing, bring this arrow further down here, just keep going towards the data. Keep going there. Well, that's about right, I'd say. Hit OK. You could probably afford to bring up the nebulosity a little bit more, so we'll get that middle one and we'll just move that towards the data there a little bit. I'd say we're pretty much good. Now the thing with that gradient removal tip that I just gave you, it's not 100%, you know. The best thing really is to have an image without a gradient in it, but sadly it can't always be that way, so you know, we have to do what we can to try and get rid of the gradient. So it does generally work. I mean, as you can see, there's still some gradients here, but generally it's not too bad. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate this image, because a lot of the key things that we've got to understand with astrophotography is placement and rotation and cropping, you know. This image, as you can see, it's far too big, you know. It looks great, and if we wanted to give a really big field of view, wide field of view, then we could probably leave it like that and just work on it. But what I've done is I've cropped it and rotated it. So go to your, sorry, I've not even explained that, have I? Image rotation, arbitrary. This is where we can select our own angles that we want to rotate it to, rather than having to just go 90 degrees. So I've clicked on counterclockwise, and I'd say about 75 degrees. Hit OK. And as you can see, that looks absolutely terrible. But that's the whole point. We're going to now crop it. So we'll click on our crop here. We want to try and get as much of this nebulosity in here. So we'll probably go to about maybe there. Let's say that's about right. And once you've got, you know, how much you want to crop, hit your crop button in your image tab, and there we go. We've got our image right there. So now we can start working on that. We can really go to town with this.